This happened a long time ago in 2013 when I was in college. It was our annual art camp organized by the college's art department. All of us were from the fine arts department, and our organization hosted this art camp with seminars from our professors and mentors, as well as team-building activities. It was usually held in recreational places. That year, we were the officers of the organization, so we chose the location, planned the games and activities, among other things. The place was in a rural area near Laguna in the Philippines. It was a huge recreational space with a suspension bridge that led to the campfire area, the pool, and the obstacle courses. In the center of the place, there was a large event hall where the seminars took place. Our cabins were hidden among the trees located behind the hall. The first cabin was for the mentors and professors, the second for the girls of my year and office mates, the third for second-year students and freshmen, and the fourth for the boys of my year and some freshmen. The last two cabins were occupied by senior students. On the right side of the event hall, there was an outdoor seating area with a life-size chessboard. If you walked straight ahead, there was an obstacle course area, and further on, there was the pool and the wooded area where the camping and suspension bridge were located. This particular story was experienced by my classmates. It was already night, around 8 p.m., and our scheduled seminar had ended. Everyone had finished dinner. Some students were relaxing on the patio of their cabins. Others were strolling around, and we, the officers, were busy planning the activities for the next day. The guys, Gabri, Walter, Kevin, Alejandro, and Enrique, were chatting and relaxing inside their cabin. One of them decided to explore a bit, and Enrique suggested they go play in the chess area. Everyone left except one. Gabri approached Francisco, a freshman who was dozing on the top bunk, and asked if he wanted to join them. But Francisco was tired and declined, turning his back to them. Before leaving, Gabri asked Francisco if he could borrow his flip-flops since he hadn't brought his own. Francisco said yes, so the five guys left the cabin, laughing and joking. As they were about to reach the chessboard, Gabri noticed someone walking parallel to them. The person was heading toward the large old coconut tree next to the chessboard area. They were confused and stopped. Walter, Kevin, Alejandro, and Enrique also saw the person walking. It was already dark with only a few lights in the distance. Gabri rubbed his eyes and recognized the person walking. It was Francisco. They all shouted, "Francisco, come here!" Enrique noticed that Francisco had stopped and turned towards them without any expression. Alejandro was confused and asked if it was really Francisco. Gabri realized something was strange and turned to the guys, asking how Francisco could be out there and wearing his flip-flops. They all looked at the person they were calling, who then continued walking and suddenly disappeared behind the old tall coconut tree. The boys gasped collectively, ran and screamed as they rushed back to their cabin. When they reached the door, they opened it only to find Francisco deeply asleep with his headphones on. They woke him up with gentle taps to ask if he was okay, or if he had gone outside. Rubbing his eyes, Francisco, confused, said no. The five boys were so scared that they tried to outrun each other to our cabin to tell us what had happened. I was very scared but not surprised, as I had felt uneasy in that area during the night. I really felt that something strange was there. I had many experiences at night before but was unsure if they were paranormal. I was the only one awake at that moment. It was 2 a.m., and I heard laughter around our cabin as if children were running and chasing each other. I also noticed silhouettes passing by the screen doors. Personally, I tried to downplay it, thinking it was some student still awake and playing outside, but I couldn't sleep until 5 a.m. I believed that place had ghosts and strange elements in it. According to some students' accounts, you could easily tell if something creepy was in that place just by the vibes it gave off. When I was in college, a 25-year-old friend of mine told me a terrifying story that happened to her and her friends in high school. She is from Buffalo, New York, and used to go camping at local camps in upstate New York. In her senior year of high school, she and 4 of her friends went to a camp with rows of cabins by the water that people could rent. As night fell, the girls noticed their neighbors, a group of boys their age, playing music and dancing around a campfire, drinking beers. One of the boys asked if they wanted to join, and when they arrived and started hanging out with them, everything seemed completely normal and they were having fun. As the night progressed, one of the boys got drunk to the point of losing control of his actions and eventually pulled out a revolver, which he said belonged to his father. He started waving it around and playing with it, which obviously scared everyone, including his own friends. Eventually, he began pointing the gun at his head and laughing, while his friends yelled at him to put it away, telling him it wasn't funny. The girls were quite disturbed at that point and told the boys they should head back to their cabin. They said goodbye and returned to their own cabin. When they arrived, they all talked about how scary it had been and expressed concern for the drunk boy. Then they changed the subject and forgot about the incident for a while. A few hours later, in the middle of the night, they heard a loud bang coming from the direction of their neighbor's cabin. Shortly after, a fleet of police cars arrived at the scene. An officer came to my friend's cabin and began asking them questions about the cabin they had visited that night. When my friend asked the officer what had happened, he explained that the boy had taken the gun, pointed it at his head, and pulled the trigger. They couldn't determine whether it was an accident or if he had intended to take his own life. To this day, my friend still suffers from PTSD from this incident and explained that she rarely goes camping because of it. I remember that incident clearly, which occurred in 2019, and to this day I still can't find a satisfactory answer.